Romans 13:1. All of you must be willing to obey completely those who rule over you. There are no authorities except ones God has chosen. Those who now rule have been chosen by God. So when you oppose the authorities, you are opposing those whom God has appointed. Those who do that will be judged. The gospel of being compassionate to the poor is understood in the context of the law, where it has meaning.
You want me to respond to that? I think he has a very, very, well, he's entitled to his interpretation of that. I can take him a little further into Paul's writings. Paul was in prison on several occasions for not breaking the law, but he was put in prison. Did that make it right? Paul encourages us, even Jesus encourages us to obey. Jesus says, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar. We are called upon to obey those that are in authority over us. And certainly, the elected officials represent such for us. But I think that the elected officials also have a responsibility from biblical understanding that they are to rule and govern as God gives them direction. And I don't think that God would bring inhumane treatment to a people by another class of people simply to get his point across. Now, it happened in Old Testament, and so I know that argument would come back. It happened in Old Testament where God, with the Jewish community, the Israelites, he brought Nebuchadnezzar against them. But God always came back and freed his people because these were his chosen people. But when we get into the New Testament, Jew and Gentile alike, Jesus came to bring all of them into a oneness. And so it is through that we understand our coming together as community, as opposed to us being a separate entity of people as we go across. And what he has there, I certainly agree. Let's obey the law of the land. But let's be sure that the law of the land, or those in authority, are operating under godly judgment and in godly righteousness. The biggest part of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, the one cord that holds the whole Bible together is love. In the Old Testament, God's love for the Israelites community, his people, his chosen people. But in the New Testament, it was God's love for people found in Jesus Christ. God did not want anyone to perish. That's what the Bible says. I didn't say that. God said it. He doesn't want anyone to perish. He wants all to come to salvation. And it is because of his love for us that God does it. And this community must act out the biblical command of love. It says, love God, love your neighbor. We cannot designate who our neighbor is going to be simply because they look like, act like, or believe like us. But our neighbors are even those persons who walk in opposition to our particular opinion. We are still called upon to love them. I love this guy. Even from what he said, I still love him. But I think that my love for him is because of the godliness that's in me. But that does not mean I have to agree with him in order to love him.
Can you offer another approach to solving these problems as a comparison to the crackdown? And maybe even give it a name for us?
Yeah, we're looking for alternative approaches to dealing with the real problems that people seem to have with illegal immigration.
Yes, I can. And it's interesting because the first thing come to my mind, I preached a sermon a few Sundays ago, the revival of religion. And I think that would be a good basic foundation for us. The revival of religion. Religion teaches us to love. And maybe not religion, the revival of love. So that we can recognize that we are all entitled to have our opinions, to voice those opinions. But it's only through love, that connection that we would have as a people, that's going to keep us in relationship with one another. And we can't be in relationship with one another, then we certainly can't be in relationship with God, who is the God of all people. So maybe that's what I come up with right off the top. Revival of love.
Okay, let's say them together and see which one sounds better. Crackdown on illegals or revival of love?
Revival of love.